Hello everybody and thanks for tuning in. This is BB Gaming and I wanted to share with you the top games I'm looking forward to in Q4 2021 and beyond. As of this filming, it is late October in 2021 and there are a lot of games vying for your attention out there. So let's take a look at them and I'm going to tell you the ones that I think will be worth your time. And let's jump right in. Okay, first up, Age of Empires 4, released yesterday, October 28th, 2021. It's been over 15 years since this IP had an update. I played Age of Empires 2 and 3 with my brother and our friends way back in the early 2000s. Many battles and good times with this game were had, and I can remember some epic struggles. It was one of the most groundbreaking RTSs of its time, so let's see if Microsoft can continue innovating on this cult classic. It released yesterday, and I played some on Twitch in the evening, so check my stream video on demand at the link in the description if you want to check it out. Requirements are very low, making the barrier to entry for this game quite easy for people with low-spec PCs. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is adopted by the community and the mods that people come up with. I'm calling it now that a Dune update with S.T.A.L.K.E.R and Fremen will be the first community-built expansion. Next up, Battlefield 2042, releasing November 19th, 2021. And wow, it is looking bleak for the planet. Battlefield 2042 takes place after massive environmental disasters have decimated the global economy and the world is on the brink of war. Matches on new-gen PCs support up to 128 players with a dynamic weather system and battlefield hazards. Older consoles will have 64 user caps in place along with smaller dynamically adjusted maps to compensate for the massive maps. So far, the game looks amazing on Twitch Reels and demo plays. I think this will make for a good holiday season. Minimum requirements are relatively low with 8 gigs of RAM, an i5-6600K, 100 gigs of disk space, and a GTX 1050 series GPU or Radeon RX 560. Recommended specs are a bit more steep with an i7-4790, 8 gigs of RAM, and a GPU with at least 8 gigs of VRAM. EA recommends the use of an Nvidia GeForce RTX 3060 at least, or an AMD Radeon RX 6600 XT. So if you want to run on Ultra, make sure to check out the full specs before committing. Halo Infinite, coming out December 3rd, 2021. What can I say? Halo fans have been waiting a long time for this. After the Halo 5 debacle, let's hope that Bungie can hold their ship together this time. From what I've seen though, this is good old Halo with a graphical upgrade, which is what I think all the fans are looking for. I myself am a Tribes guy, so yeah. Shazbot baby! Specifications are mixed with recommended specs coming in at an Intel i7-9700K or AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, an Nvidia RTX 2070 or AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT, 16 gigs of RAM, and 50 gigs of disk. With that said, the memory is the most expensive part of that, and most enthusiasts should be able to kick it off in Ultra on day one. Elden Ring, coming out January 2022. Holy cow, the hype. This game has seen so much hype, I'm hoping it's not another launch like No Man's Sky. With that said, Miyazaki's open world with contributions from the indomitable George R.R. Martin, I'd say it's likely to live up to all the expectations the gaming community has laid on it. With character builds and combat very closely resembling the Dark Souls franchise, it's sure to be a hell of a challenge for anyone taking it on. While it is an open world, it looks like it will still adhere to the relatively contained and curated level designs of the previous ARPGs that From is so well known for. The open world will have 6 dungeons with demigods to tackle, but you can visit each area along with a huge array of places outside that to expand and configure your build along the way. Look for this game to drop in early Q1 2022. Recommended specifications are Intel Core i7-477K or an AMD Ryzen 5 1500X, 12 gigs of RAM, an Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060 6 gigs or an AMD Radeon RX 480 4 gig, 150 gigs of disk space, and 3 gigs of dedicated VRAM. Next up, Dying Light 2, coming out February 2022. This is not your typical survivor horror action role-playing game. Dying Light takes things to another level with a heavy emphasis on parkour and high-flying antics, as well as full day-night play cycles. These monsters are not afraid of the sun. The demos and gameplay I've seen so far look incredible, and there are some pretty amazing things you can do in this game. The world is open, and flying from building to building to avoid the zombie hordes on the ground looks like a lot of fun. As for the horror aspect, well, the combat looks very polished and dynamic. Lots of chomping zombies, slow motion dodges, and machetes to the dome. Recommended specs are Intel Core i7-477K or an AMD Ryzen 5 1500X, RAM of 12 gigs, Video card would be a 4 gig NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 or an AMD Radeon RX 480 or better. Dedicated video RAM of 4 gigs. Stalker 2 coming out April 2022. Stalker is another franchise that's unique in the survival horror series. This studio has been through the ringer, and GSC Game World has been trying to bring this IP back to life for over a decade now. With a release date in Q2 of 2022, anyone that's been waiting for this should be excited, as it does look amazing. As a Stalker, you will traverse the exclusion zone of Chernobyl after the second massive explosion has caused deadly anomalies, spewing forth mutant creatures, along with artifacts of incredible value. It's a 64 kilometer squared photorealistic map running on the Unreal 5 engine, so there's lots to explore here. The recommended specs for Stalker are AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, Intel Core i7 9700K, 16 gigs of RAM, AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT 8 gig, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 Super 8, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti 11 gig, 150 gigs of free disk space, and 8 gigs of dedicated VRAM. Baldur's Gate 3, July 2022. Larian Studios had a really interesting approach to this release, one that I wasn't super aligned with. Since the beta launched, I have played the first 10 hours of this game probably 3 or 4 times now, and I gotta say I'm not looking forward to doing it again, as my characters have surely been wiped 3 times at this point. After the second wipe, I was very reluctant to even play it at all, but it is a really fun game, and being able to play multiplayer makes it so much more fun. Having said all that, the Baldur's Gate franchise is a staple of the RPG genre, and so much about it is amazing. The universe is so diverse, and so much of the story is gritty and bold. It's a really well-loved series, and I'm sure the full release will be amazing. Having played it on multiple platforms, it's pretty awesome to see it supported by Stadia, PC, and multiple consoles. I'm not typically super fond of turn-based RPG games, but this game was particularly fun and challenging, and I found myself not super bothered by the constant saving, dying, reloading, and back into the breach cycle, because in the end, it was so rewarding to complete each battle that I felt a sense of achievement. Look for this to drop in July for the official release of 1.0. Next up, Redfall, coming summer 2022. So Arcane, the studio responsible for Dishonored, BioShock 2, and Prey, has built a sprawling first-person co-op vampire survival game. The premise is the town of Redfall is under siege by vampires and their legions who have blocked out the sun. Form an optimal team to take the town back and fight the hordes of bloodsuckers that have laid siege to Redfall. It's been touted as Left 4 Dead with vampires, but this game has been closely guarded and gameplay videos are not yet available. I'll be watching this game closely as they begin to share little nuggets with the community. It's planned for release in summer of next year. Starfield, coming November 2022. Bethesda's first new universe in 25 years. That is a huge statement. With massive hits like Fallout and Elder Scrolls, this has some serious competition from the studio to live up to. With very little to go off of, the hype for this game is as thick as butter on cold toast. There were people discussing possible storylines on Reddit 3 years ago, and that's not abated all the way up to today. However, Bethesda has started to release smaller videos in regards to the lore and structure of the storyline in their YouTube channel, so feel free to troll through that if you want to get caught up. What we do know is that you're supposed to be able to visit dozens of planets in the settled systems, each of which has its own gravity, flora, fauna, and environmental effects. In a recent leak, the size of each planet was explained to be much larger than the entire map of Skyrim, which means there is a lot to see in this game. Choose from many of the factions and approaches for tackling the Starfield. Company of Heroes 3, coming in 2022. Here's another classic IP that hasn't been updated in many years, nearly 8 to be exact. Due for release in 2022, this is a game that I'm excited about. Another RTS that was groundbreaking for its day and which I played online quite a bit. I'm curious to see how they improve on their mechanics and what new modes they may offer. With the new command queuing system, the tactical pause being the one update I've heard about so far, I'm excited to try it out. This time you are thrust into the Italian and North African theaters of World War II. You have Italian partisan NPCs as allies, and the dynamic storyline changes based upon your actions and the decisions you make along the way. Relic worked with a player council that they formed during the development made up of modders and competitive players. Together they decided the theater and updated many of the mechanics in the game, so you could say it's already been player approved. Look for this to come out in mid to late 2022. Next up, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, coming in 2022. Built by Ubisoft and massive using the Snowflake engine, this game based on James Cameron's Avatar looks to be a pretty impressive open-world adventure. Available on just about every platform, it's shaping up to be quite the game. With Avatar 2 set to release in December 2022, this should be a nice warm-up to the story, and to see a AAA Avatar game in development, you can be sure I'll be following this closely. Since we see the RDA fighting the Na'vi, it likely takes place during the time of the first movie or close to it. I'd say the combat will be pretty fun if you're attacking the RDA choppers with a Banshee. Let's see how it shapes up, and when they do the gameplay reveal. Lord of the Rings Gollum 2022. An interesting concept by Data Lake Entertainment. This game tracks Gollum's journey from the slave pits in the Dark Tower through Mirkwood and the mines of Moria and beyond. Seeing as his story before the events of the Ring are not told in detail, this would be an interesting opportunity to see places and people that many haven't yet in Tolkien's sprawling world. A stealth action adventure, this is likely to be less of a hack and slash than many of the Lord of the Rings fans are used to, and much more stealth cinematic focused. I would recommend that people check out the gameplay beforehand. Set to drop in 2022, this will likely be the back half of the year. Hogwarts Legacy 2022. An open-world adventure set in Rowling's Wizarding World, being developed by Avalanche. This game looks pretty amazing. Set in the 1800s, you will build and train your character at Hogwarts, and then get spit out into the world to fight monsters, explore ancient ruins, and build your legacy. There was an unofficial trailer leaked a few years ago with some gameplay involved, but the quality was complete crap, so we'll closely watch this as it develops over the coming months. But so far, it looks really promising for anyone into the Wizarding World. Coming sometime in 2022. Little Devil Inside 2022. This game looks so cool. A third-person action-adventure RPG with survival elements in an open world, the art in this game looks incredible. The concept of being a supernatural investigator assistant to a college professor, going out to take on cases that no one else wants to look into, seems like such a fun concept to me. The dark humor and boss fights look incredible, like The Witcher was made into a steampunk Victorian polyagonal cartoon. With a cooperative multiplayer, this game has a lot of promise, and I will definitely be following this closely as it develops and more info comes out. Okay, moving on to long-term releases or games without a release date. First up is Black Myth Wukong, supposedly coming in 2023. Chinese indie studio Game Science has been developing Black Myth Wukong for a while now, dropping a 12-minute gameplay trailer in 2020. Having since migrated to the Unreal 5 engine, they released another 11-minute trailer in 2021 showcasing the new engine, and wow, the game looks seriously promising. With multiple viral showcases now, the hype on this one is very real. You play as Sun Wukong, a legendary figure from Chinese folklore and based on the book Journey to the West. With the ability to shift into multiple forms and possessing incredible strength, I can only imagine what the fighting styles will shake out to. I'm hoping this one turns out as good as its promise. Next up, Lies of P, supposedly coming in 2023. Lies of P is an action-adventure game based on the traditional Pinocchio story, and combining the plague-filled horrors of Bloodborne and the difficult fighting style of Dark Souls, this looks like one hell of an addition to the action genre. Developed by Round 8 and published by NeoWiz, I'll bet this will be an amazing game when it comes out. Geppetto's looking like one seriously badass mofo, and Pinocchio looks to be an interesting protagonist. Hopefully, as more gameplay footage comes out, this continues to be an impressive release. Next up, Beyond Good and Evil 2, supposedly coming in 2023 or 2024. This game's been plagued by stops and starts, and it's been in development for a very long time. With Ubisoft producing E3 trailers and many other hype trains along the way, there has been little in the way of news for this game. From the original teaser dropping in 2008 and the decade of silence following, the few tidbits we've had along the way have been almost painful for the fans of the franchise. The concept and alpha gameplay we've seen so far looks like so much fun, and I'd hate to see this die on the vine. Since it is using the new Voyager engine developed by Ubisoft Montpellier, I'll be watching how the news takes shape on this game as we see more content closer to release. With a rich open universe and the ability to impact the planetary environments through interaction and combat, this project shows a major turning point in Ubisoft's approach to game making. Rather than stamping out title after title, they're taking a more systematic and careful approach to the game elements and how they will release it. Now for the honorable mentions. Militsioner, developed by an indie studio, Tall Boys. This game garnered a lot of attention when it went viral on Twitter in September. In the process, it upset Russian state-owned news Russia 24 and has caused panic among the development team as they learn to deal with the exposure. And what's not to like with a game that deals with a gigantic Russian special police officer watching your every move and disciplining you as you cross the line? The art looks wonderful and bizarre, and I hope the hype gives the team the boost they need to get the game over the line in the manner of their original vision. I am always excited to see games that break the boundaries of convention and go their own way. And last but not least, Atomic Heart. To be determined, another Russian development by Munfish, Atomic Heart is an action RPG which unfolds in an alternate universe of the Soviet Union in the 1950s. A global system failure happens at the Soviet facility number 3826 that leads machinery to rebel against the people. You are Major P3, and your task is to eliminate the consequences of a large-scale accident and prevent the leakage of classified information threatening to destroy the whole world. With a robust crafting system where you can salvage parts from the robots you kill and make new weapons, and a well-fleshed-out combat system, this game looks incredible. As more footage becomes available, this game will surely garner more attention, so keep your eyes peeled. And that's all, folks. That's my current roundup of games out there in the ether that I think hold the most promise. I hope you enjoyed it and are looking forward to all these games as much as I am. Catch you next time. See ya.